In this podcast episode, the hosts are joined by Imran Ahmed, the founder and CEO of the Center for Countering Digital Hate, CCDH. Ahmed discusses the rise of hate speech and disinformation on social media, focusing on the Great Replacement theory, platform accountability, the complexities of hate speech, and the impact of disinformation during the COVID-19 pandemic. He also addresses the challenges of content moderation, the influence of advertisers, and the need for transparency in online discourse. Ahmed established CCDH in response to the growing prevalence of hate speech and disinformation on social media platforms. His journey began during his time as a political advisor in the UK, where he witnessed the rise of coordinated hate campaigns, particularly against marginalized communities. The impetus for founding CCDH came from a realization that traditional political and journalistic institutions were failing to address the weaponization of digital spaces by bad actors. Ahmed's goal was to create transparency and public awareness regarding how these platforms were being exploited, particularly in the context of hate and extremism. A significant focus of CCDH's work is the Great Replacement theory, a conspiracy theory suggesting that there is a deliberate plot to replace native populations with immigrants. Ahmed highlights how this theory has been linked to real-world violence and has fueled hate against various communities, particularly Muslims and Jews. The normalization of such extremist ideologies on social media platforms poses a threat to societal cohesion and democratic values. He argues that the amplification of these harmful narratives not only influences public opinion, but can also lead to tragic outcomes, such as hate crimes and acts of terrorism. Ahmed emphasizes the need for social media platforms to be held accountable for the content they host. He advocates for a framework that subjects these companies to the same legal standards as other businesses, particularly regarding negligence. This would mean that if a platform knowingly allows harmful content that leads to real-world harm, it should be held liable. Ahmed argues that the current legal protections, such as Section 230 in the U.S., provide these companies with a get-out-of-jail-free card, allowing them to evade responsibility for the consequences of their policies and practices. The discussion around hate speech is complex, with Ahmed asserting that while free speech is a fundamental right, it should not come at the expense of the rights and safety of others. He believes that there should be moral limits to what is considered acceptable discourse, particularly when it comes to hate speech that targets vulnerable communities. He argues that allowing hate speech to proliferate creates an environment where marginalized groups are further victimized and societal norms shift towards intolerance and division. The conversation also touches on Elon Musk's acquisition of X and the subsequent changes in platform policies. Ahmed expresses concern that Musk's approach to free speech has led to an increase in hate speech and extremist content on the platform. He notes that while Musk promotes the idea of a free speech zone, this has resulted in a significant rise in harmful discourse, including anti-Semitic content. Ahmed argues that the platform should not only allow free expression, but also actively work to prevent the spread of hate and disinformation. The pandemic has highlighted the dangers of disinformation, particularly regarding health-related topics. Ahmed discusses how misinformation about COVID-19 and vaccines spread rapidly on social media, leading to public confusion and harm. He points out that CCDH focused on identifying and combating disinformation that could lead to real-world consequences, such as vaccine hesitancy and the spread of false health claims. The organization aims to differentiate between legitimate discourse and harmful misinformation that endangers public health. The debate surrounding vaccines and the origins of COVID-19, including lab leak theories, illustrates the challenges of navigating disinformation. Ahmed acknowledges that while it is essential to have open discussions about these topics, there is a fine line between healthy debate and the spread of harmful conspiracy theories. He emphasizes the importance of relying on credible scientific evidence and expert opinions rather than unverified claims circulating on social media. The impact of banning individuals from social media platforms is a contentious issue. Ahmed argues that while banning can reduce the reach of harmful actors, it does not eliminate their influence entirely. He cites examples like Andrew Tate, who, despite being banned, has found ways to disseminate his content through alternative channels. He believes that the focus should be on creating a healthier online environment where harmful content is not amplified, rather than solely relying on bans as a solution. Ahmed stresses the need for clear and transparent rules regarding content moderation on social media platforms. He argues that platforms should provide users with clear guidelines on what constitutes violative content and how enforcement decisions are made. This transparency would allow for meaningful accountability and help users understand the rationale behind moderation actions. Without clear rules, platforms risk arbitrary enforcement that can lead to accusations of bias and inconsistency. The discussion also delves into the political implications of content moderation, particularly regarding Donald Trump's ban from Twitter. Ahmed acknowledges the complexity of the situation, noting that while Trump spread disinformation that undermined democratic processes, the decision to ban him raised questions about political bias and the power of social media companies to silence political figures. The conversation highlights the troubling relationship between engagement and the amplification of violative content. Ahmed points out that social media algorithms often prioritize content that generates high engagement, which can include hate speech and disinformation. This creates a cycle where harmful content is rewarded, further entrenching negative societal norms. Ahmed advocates for a reevaluation of how platforms measure success and engagement, suggesting that they should prioritize the promotion of healthy discourse over mere clicks and views. Finally, Ahmed discusses the role of sponsors and advertisers in shaping digital discourse. He notes that advertisers have significant influence over what content is allowed on platforms, as they often withdraw funding in response to harmful content. This dynamic creates a situation where platforms may prioritize advertiser interests over user safety and well-being. Ahmed argues that a more balanced approach is needed, where platforms consider the impact of their policies on all users, not just their bottom line.